Removing myself in 3, 2, 1.
Hi everybody, I'm Blaauw from the Division of Human Nutrition at Stellenbosch University, and I would like to talk to you about choosing the right protein bag when prescribing parenteral nutrition to your patients. These are my disclaimers, and within the next plus minus 10 minutes, I would like to discuss with you the stress response, how it specifically impacts the protein metabolism, and then we'll look at the nutritional management, how much protein, when to give, and just lastly discussing some practical applications. So the way in which the body responds to stress and injury is pretty much an orchestrated response. However, the intensity of the stress response as well as the duration of the stress response have massive implications on nutritional status. Two of these nutrients that we need to take into consideration when we plan our nutritional scripts are the way in which the body responds in terms of glucose as well as protein. So with the massive mobilization of substrate in order to match the energy expenditure through the process of gluconeogenesis, hyperglycemia results. Protein is mobilized in order to provide amino acids to feed into the gluconeogenesis, also to provide amino acids for acute phase protein production. But this unfortunately results in a loss of muscle mass. If we look on these slides, just from two specific studies, on the x-axis, you can see the time from admission in the ICU over the first 10 days. And looking at the two studies, the one is about 18% drop in muscle mass. The second one indicates 22%. So literally a fifth of muscle mass being lost within the first 10 days of ICU stay. What are the consequences or the impact of that loss of muscle mass? This systematic review looked at muscle loss, sarcopenia, perioperatively, and they look at what would be the effect on it post-operatively in terms of major complications. And they found a 40% increased risk for major complications in those with muscle loss going into the procedure. Also, we know that a low muscle area significantly impacts on mortality, where those with sarcopenia have a significantly higher mortality rate. So how can we manage that through our nutritional prescription? And again, we're talking specifically about protein. I'm going to share with you results of 3 studies. The first one, the study by Zussman, looked at the best mortality reduction with protein intake. And they found that once you pass 75% of their target, in their case, the target was set at 1.3 grams per kg per day. Exceeding 75% resulted in a reduction in mortality. The second study by Weiss and his colleagues have indicated a 1.2 grams per kg target, but specifically also added the day. So by day 4, you need to reach at least 1.2 gram to have a mortality reduction. Interestingly, in the study by Weiss, that this mortality reduction was only found in the non-septic patients. So the protective effect of high protein was lost in those with sepsis. The third study that I want to mention by Cook et al. Have found that it's not just the amount of protein, but also the timing component. And they recommend a progressive, time-dependent increase in protein, starting slow and gradually building up in terms of the amount that you consume. So these considerations were taken into effect when the ICU guidelines from ESPEN as well as from other colleagues working extensively in this field when they made their recommendations. Here you can see I've got the early acute phase, late acute phase, and the recovery phase, so over a time frame on the x-axis. On the y-axis, the protein intake. And you can see that gradual progressive intake of protein as is recommended. If we put that into consideration with the energy recommendations, just because the two obviously go together, you will see that for the early acute phase, we recommend protein less than 70% of the energy expenditure and protein in the region of 0.6 to 1.2 grams per kg body weight. Moving into the next 3-4 days, we recommend energy between 80 and 100% of target, preferably measured through indirect calorimetry, and protein 1.3 to 1.5 grams per kg. And moving beyond the first week in the ICU, we can start to increase the energy and the protein even more. So what are the practical challenges when we want to apply these recommendations? I think for us, most importantly, balanced nutrition. At all points in time, we should ensure that we tick all the boxes for all of the nutrients, but it's not always that easy. I've already mentioned to you that during the acute phase, and especially when the stress response of the body is in an active phase, there's a high production of energy. So through the process of autophagy, the body can literally produce up to 1,500 kilocalories per day. So for energy, in the beginning, start slow, provide hypocaloric feeding, and gradually increase. Protein, in the beginning stage, is most likely guided by the energy content. If you have a restricted energy content, you will struggle to meet your protein requirements. Another challenge, which I believe is not yet sorted out, is whether we should use total protein or protein equivalents. You will note that the ESPEN guidelines state for protein 1.3 grams per kg protein equivalents. That means for every 100 grams of a mixture of amino acids, we actually only end up with 83 grams of total protein. And that will make a huge effect on how we calculate our requirements. For carbohydrates and fats, probably the most important thing that I want to highlight here is the use of non-nutritional energy sources. Be aware of that. If the protein is receiving a glucose-containing IV infusion, that will have major implications on total caloric intake as well as carbohydrate intake. If the patient is being sedated, for instance, getting propofol, again, it will affect calories as well as fat. We have to take that into consideration when calculating our requirements. Micronutrients need to be added to all prescriptions, whether it's enteral, whether it's parenteral, because we have to ensure balanced intake. So make sure that you add the required ampules of the individual micronutrients at complementation levels. Complementation levels mean basal levels of intake. And also remember that when there are abnormalities in the micronutrients, that you have to manipulate your script. For fluid, if we have the luxury of no fluid restriction, you can pretty much choose any product as long as it meets the requirements. However, if you've got fluid restriction, it has a major impact on choice of product. Therefore, know the available products, know the nutritional composition of the products, and choose the product that matches your requirements best. It's also a good practice every day on the ward round to decide on the target nutrient or target nutrients for the day, because you might not always be able to tick all the boxes, but you need to know which nutrients are you going to chase for that day. If possible, chase protein. So lastly, just a very quick case study that I want to discuss with you. This is a 51-year-old male admitted with severe abdominal trauma, multiple small bowel perforations. He had some damage repair, clip and drop, and he ended up with an open abdomen, admitted to the ICU. The body mass index of this patient was 36, and we calculated his adapted weight at 75 kgs. By day 3, even though he was still getting some inotropes, he was hemodynamically stable. We could start with low-dose TPN. By day 4, inotropes were stopped. TPN could increase, and we were lucky that we were able to perform indirect calorimetry on the patient. And what we found was an IC value of 1,799, so basically 1,800 calories. We know, as just discussed with you, but by day 4, we should aim for 80% of the energy expenditure, so 80% of the 1,800, it's about 1,400 calories. Protein day 4 is 1.3 grams per kg, so it's about 98 grams. I've also calculated the glucose oxidation rate and the fat requirement, 0.7 to 1.5 grams per kg. And just a reminder, micronutrients complementation levels. So if we have to choose a PN bag that will best match this requirements, if we prescribe 1 liter of Triamyl N9840E, and we also add to that another liter of Triamyl N9840E, but only the protein component at 13 ml, so it's about 80% of the protein component, we will be able to match the protein perfectly. The energy will be slightly below. Obviously, the carbohydrates and fats will be lower because we're not yet at 100% of requirements. If you're worried about the energy, you can always, again, in this case, use a non-nutritional energy source to your advantage and use a 5% dextrose 1 liter solution, which will add another 200 calories. And then again, you can tick the box for calories. Remember to add your ampule of water-soluble, fat-soluble vitamins, as well as trace elements. Then by day 7, we repeated the IC measurement, and at this point in time, we received a value of 2,214. We know by day 7, you can use 100% of energy expenditure. Protein should be 1.5 grams per kg, which comes to 113 grams. Carbs, fats, micronutrients remain the same. So for PN, I recommend 2 liters of triamyl N9840E, and that perfectly ticks the box for energy, for protein, for carbs, and for fats. Remember to add your micronutrients. But here I want to show you that if you had chosen another bag, same volume, 2 liter bag, but a bag that contains less protein. So if you chose the 2 liters of triamyl N7960E, you will tick the box for energy, for carbs, and for protein. But compare what it does for energy, carbs, and fats, but compare what it does for energy. So by day 7, we repeated the endocalorimetry and we got a value of 2,214. We know that we can use 100% of the energy expenditure. That means 2,200. A protein should be 1.5 grams per kg, which comes to about 113 grams. Carbs, fat, micronutrients remain the same. So my recommendation is that we now use a triamyl bag, 2 liters of N9840E. That will meet the requirements for our energy, for our protein, for our carbohydrates, and for fat. However, if we choose another bag, if we choose the triamyl N7960E, same volume, but different protein component, we will tick the box for energy, for carbohydrate, and for fat. But for protein, we will have significantly less. It's basically 1.2 grams per kg. So this shows the importance of choosing the volume-wise, the bag that provides you with the most protein or the most nitrogen. So nutrition prescriptions should be adapted according to patients' needs, according to the clinical condition. We should administer the right amount of nutrition, in this case protein, by choosing the right product, and we should administer it at the right time, progressively increasing. And I'm sure that you will agree with me that personalized nutrition approaches is absolutely vital. I thank you for your attention. Sorry about that.
No, that was perfect.
It was literally at the most important message, and then I blundered that one, so I had to repeat that one.
But you were such a professional in knowing that you stopped and you just well done.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm not sure what the time. I didn't check the time, but it was probably 10, 11 thereabouts.
12 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that was with the slight repeat of that slide, so that was perfect.
I took like a couple seconds, 50 seconds, so it was about 12 minutes.
Okay,
that's it.
Yeah.
So Sabrina, you've just made the note of the timing, so that when we put it all together, we just blend that part out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But Prof, that was really good. You engaged with the camera. You were so natural. So I can't fault it. So
thank you. Okay. Thanks. Process going forward.
Prof, so what we'll do is I'm first sending this off so that they can do translations. We're translating it into 5 different languages. So the translations and the transcript of this will be done, while at the same time the studio is blending in your slides. When I get the draft of all of this together, I'll send you a link so that you can have a look at it as well, so that you can give me your thumbs up, so that you can see that the right slides are blending in with when you're talking.
Right.
And then if you give me a thumbs up, we'll just finalize it internally. And I don't have the exact date. I think yours is supposed to go live on the 24th of November.
Okay. Not a
That's when
problem.
we physically send it out to the market.
Yes. Perfect.
So that's the process going forward.
Okay, not a problem. You just shout when I need to do anything or check, or if I have to do a retake, well then we'll just
I
play
don't-
the retake button.
No need for the retake. I think this was really perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Right.
Sabrina, you've got the raw recording. So if you can ask Candice or somebody just to send me that raw recording so that I can work with the translations.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
I'll make them again.
Prof, that was short and sweet, and thank you for your time.
Right, my
Oh,
pleasure.
make my
Thanks,
job
everybody.
simple.
Okay, thank you.
Have a
All the
stunning
best.
day.
Thanks,
Have a lovely
bye.
day.
Thank you.